Hello and welcome to ThePrint. I'm Karishma Hasnat. And today we have with us Dr. Seilen Haokip, the spokesperson of the Kuki National Organization, one of the two armed Kuki groups that had signed a suspension of operations agreement with the central government and the state government in 2008. Welcome to ThePrint, sir.
Good afternoon, Karishma. Thank you.
At the foremost, if I may ask, where do you stand with the government of India when it comes to seeking a political solution to the current crisis?
We are on the right track. We are engaged in dialogue with the government. SO was signed in 2008, and talks have been going on. And a major part of the talks have been about our demand for Autonomous Territorial Council within the state of Manipur.
Okay.
And of course, after 3rd May 2023, there's been a paradigm shift. And if you want me to explain that
Yes, please.
in more details, I'll be glad to. So, as I mentioned, our demand for upgradation, if you like, from the previous Autonomous District Council to an Autonomous Territorial Council within the state of Manipur was clearly because Article 371C, that was a part of the creation of the state of Manipur, and 371C being clearly for the hills under the Hill Area Committee, and autonomous district councils functioned in that capacity. But it was found unsatisfactory by people in terms of the application of that article, although good in letter, didn't translate in spirit and in terms of practicalities, and it was not fulfilling our aspirations. So we felt we should ask for a better arrangement, and which we termed it as Autonomous Territorial Council with certain more devolution of powers within the state of Manipur. However, unfortunately, as we all know, 3rd May 2023, there was an outbreak of violence in Imphal, and which spread to the hills, and there has been a lot of chaos, a lot of deaths, a lot of internally displaced people. There has been a complete transfer of populations from the valley to the hills of the Kukis, and from the major districts in the hills where Meitei population were also, such as in Tengnopal, More, from Lamka, Churachandpur, from Kangpokpi district, they have moved to Imphal. And then accordingly too, our political demand could no longer be within the parameters of the Autonomous Territorial Council, because from 3rd of May we were ethnically cleansed from the valley, and we have moved to the hills. We can't go back there. We don't want to go back there also anymore under the circumstances. So the most logical progression from that point was to find an alternative for our existence, convergence in terms of our demand. And it was the same earlier, but then from the shift from Autonomous Territorial Council to SA and then to UT has also been consistent.
So you have it more defined now from separate administration to a union territory.
Correct.
So what are you hoping out of it? What would a union territory entail?
A union territory would entail, according to the provisions laid out in comparison for the Pondicherry people under Article A 239, 239A. As you know, there are about 8 UTs in the country, and none of them are the same. Each one is uniquely tailored to the needs of the place and the people. And ours seems nearest with the Pondicherry model in the autonomous district councils in the 6 districts earlier. The population being mixed, the representation to the autonomous district council was also representative of the ethnicities.
Right.
And they administered and worked together under the same, arrangement.
But even the demand of autonomous district council, as you say, that seemed nearly impossible because of certain challenges in terms of overlapping boundaries or contiguous areas shared between with other communities.
Not at all, not at all. autonomous district councils existed, and the mixed population, mixed representatives worked together under the same ADCs in the different 6 districts.
Okay.
There was one in Ukhrul, one in Tamenglong, one in Senapati, one in Churchandpur, one in Chandel, and one in Kangpokpi.
The biggest worry for the Valley people of the Meitei community is their territorial integrity. How would you address that when you go about your demand?
Yes, I think the concerns are right in the sense that Manipur existed as a state after the British came, and that status quo remained and was functioning, although with grievances from the hill people over rights not being, duly honored, and there was no equitability in terms of provisions being shared. But then, be that as it may, as I mentioned, ADCs or ATCs were still demands within the state of Manipur, and it did not threaten the integrity of Manipur.
Okay.
It was to sort of raise the development aspect of the hills, which is part of Manipur. If the hills do better, it's for the state of Manipur. I mean, you can't begrudge the hill people from wanting to advance. So they were exercising their democratic rights. Nothing wrong with that, and it didn't threaten the integrity of Manipur either. But now the demand for UT is explained as disturbing the territorial integrity of Manipur.
Yes.
But that's a bit confusing, because on the one hand, 3rd of May 2023, you ethnically cleanse the Kukis to leave the valley. They go to their hills and they seek something for their hills, and you're saying you're breaking up the territorial integrity of Manipur. You can't have your cake and eat it too.
Okay. It has to be one demand from your community, the Kuki Zomi brethren, the CSOs, the organizations have to agree on this one demand. Now, when I talk of the KNO and the UPF, you have been in talks with the center for long. So naturally, you know how to go about it, you know the ways, your experience. So are you planning to take the lead this time as well?
Well, taking the lead, as it were, KNO and UPF have had representatives who participate in the talks, and that pattern will continue. It's to resume now with the new dispensation in Delhi, and that we expect will happen after the parliamentary session. It depends, let's see. But the talks have to continue. The government has started it, and it's somewhere along the process. It hasn't concluded yet, and that is simply because of the parliamentary elections and the government changing. So logically, it would resume sometime, and then our demand for UT, we will have a response from the government, a response in the sense that once the dialogue resumes, government will say, what their point of view is, and accordingly we will respond, we will negotiate, but it'll all be along democratic lines.
Even if you get what you want in the form of a solution, we understand that you have already signed the suspension of operations with the government. So it means that the cadres have to retreat to the designated camps.
The cadres are to be lodged in designated camps since we signed the SOO in 2008. And that has been going on. It's just that the cadres practically cannot remain in the camps all the time for 2 reasons. I'll cite 2 reasons. One is the camps were constructed in 2008, and the cadres moved in, and the government gives a stipend for the cadres, which is used to maintain their needs, the rations, etc. Now, things went fine from 2008 till about 8, 9, 10, 11 even. But thereafter, you see, for example, the state, which is responsible for disbursing the stipend, often delayed it. The technicality of that is the center provides the funds, but the process is the state pays and the center reimburses the stipend money that the state disburses. Now, there are lapses in the payment, sometimes for a year, sometimes even longer. And when you don't sustain that, the cadres cannot survive in the camps. They need at least 2 square meals a day. If you want to sustain cadres staying in camps, then the provisions, the infrastructure which the government is committed to must also be in place, which is not happening. Camps are not repaired despite numerous appeals. And currently, the government has not paid the cadres their stipend for about 15, 16 months.
All right. So when we talk about the Sioux groups and also the non-Sioux groups, I believe all have come united for a cause now.
The common cause now is to defend ourselves from aggression. In that respect, there's no division in terms of the people, but in terms of activities, SO groups cannot participate in this current, you know, situation happening between the valley people and the hill people. And they needn't be also, except, I mean, there are volunteers, of course, but the center has provided CAPF in abundance. I mean, where in the country have you seen so many CAPF being airdropped, literally, although they land in Imphal airport, being deployed for a crisis within the country?
Right.
So,
there are also allegations of extortion being on the rise. How do you address that?
extortion on the rise, meaning cadres have to feed themselves. Government is not giving them their stipend. What are they going to survive on? And if they ask people for money, you can call that extortion, or you can say asking people to feed you because the government is not. Now,
But doesn't it also indicate that they might become a threat to the society tomorrow?
well, that's universal, isn't it? Anywhere. Why did the French Revolution take place? When they were deprived of their basic needs by the monarchy, you know what happened. And similarly, it could happen in this situation also, and it is happening, and it is being called violations of ground rules or a law and order issue. So these are general, universal issues. You can't consider it an isolated, unique case in respect to cookies.
Right. Biren Singh has been the chief minister since the past 7 years. And in his capacity, he has taken certain measures, rolled out schemes, including Go to Hills, war on drugs, his action against illegal immigrants. Maybe his approach would not be appreciated, but you supported these initiatives earlier.
Yes, for instance, in the case of refugees, the tribal minister led Pau from Tengnopal More, he was part of the government scheme. He went there, he exercised, and implemented what the government's plans were. But then things became abnormal, as you know. Violence broke out, and things have not moved on smoothly. That doesn't mean that we are not cooperative. I mean, our issues in Imphal, despite I shouldn't say despite, yes, there was the rally in the hills, the peaceful rally, protest against the ST demand, etc. It was democratically exercised. Natives had the same right to counter the protest in a peaceful manner too, but it became violent. And although that protest led by Atsum, all Manipur tribal students thing, why were the cookies being singled out? This happened in all the hill district. And an incident sparked in Chanpur. Why were cookies singled out in the valley?
Do you think the use of weapons created a fear psychosis among the people in the valley?
Oh, weapons are not new. SO, for example, have weapons. They're in designated camps. And there are also non-Sioux groups who, in that situation of mob activity, some might have brandished AKs or something, but they didn't go and shoot anybody. They didn't go and shoot at the security forces. So, I mean, you can't see that video clip and then use that as an exercise, an excuse to ethnically cleanse people in Manipur, in Imphal. Where's the justification?
When we talk of the Armed Forces Special Powers Act or the AFSPA, in Manipur, it remains imposed in the hill areas, but not in places in the jurisdiction of the valley areas. What do you have to say about that?
Yes, that's quite enigmatic actually. It befuddles me quite a bit. Because in the hills, ever since suspension of operations was signed, earlier in 2005 between the Indian Army and SO groups, the immediate impact of that was peace in the hills. But the state government did not uh, agree to be a part of that. And it was essentially between the army and the SO groups. So the state was not obligated to abide by that. However, within 3 years, in 2008, the suspension of operations agreement signed became tripartite. Government of India, state government of Manipur, and the SO groups. Ever since then, the dividends of SO in terms of peace in the hills is palpable. People were beginning to uh, build houses again, buy a motor vehicle on loan or whatever, people moving out in the evening. It was clearly perceptible. Then, after some years, as recent as about 4 or 5 years only now, Armed Forces Special Powers Act was lifted in the valley and left in the hills where SO was doing so well. So we began to wonder what is going on, what is being planned underneath. We became suspicious. And today, as you know, the VBIGs, okay, the Bombay UNLF group have signed an agreement with the government. But in terms of the disturbance, where is it more? In the valley or in the hills? I mean, in the hills, as I said, SO was doing well. Peace dividends were very clear. Now, why do you leave the act in the hills but take it away from the valley where there's no SOO with the VBIGs?
When we talk of, let's talk about the neighboring country Myanmar and the political instability in there. Has it in anyhow impacted your cause or the situation here?
Yes, it has adversely. For example, you have refugees coming in from Myanmar because they are being persecuted by the army there, and they are being termed as illegal immigrants. I mean, technically, because India and Burma have not signed the UN agreement for refugees, you could say that. But then India has also exercised its human rights, sort of position in other cases, whether it's Afghanistan or from other areas. And likewise, Mizoram is doing the same, and Manipur should do the same. I mean, in terms of providing humanitarian assistance. And if the refugees who come, they can be identified. Government has agencies in the borders to identify who, take their biometrics, etc., provide them humanitarian relief while they're there. And once the situation subsides and it improves, they can go back. And they don't want to stay on, they want to go back. Some might want to stay on, but if they want to, then there are due process of law to apply for citizenship or whatever. But then, because the state government has not exercised its prerogative of law and order effectively, in fact, it has been completely contrary to what they should be doing. Let's not spell that out. Then you can't blame the victims for your, mismanagement, if you like.
Right. Talking about another neighbor, Bangladesh. Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina recently talked of a greater plan of carving out a Christian country. How would you address that?
Well, I think that's stretching the imagination, really. I can't see the United States of America coming and creating a Christian country out of Myanmar and Chittagong Hill Tracts and northeast India. If they were looking for an army base, they've done it in other places. They'll follow, the right agencies, the ministries involved in Delhi. They'll do that. Why would they be surreptitious about that?
You already spoke about death, destruction, about people getting displaced. Here on, can we expect the situation to remain peaceful until we reach a logical solution?
We are clearly for peace, and that's why we have engaged in dialogue with the government. We are exercising our democratic rights, asking for our constitutional safeguards. Now, if the people in the valley who ethnically cleansed us desist from, persisting in that manner, peace is already there. If they don't attack us, there's peace because we don't go and attack them. So who is for peace? We are for peace. Government knows that.
We hope peace prevails. On that note, thank you so much for giving us your time, Dr. Haokip, and we wish you all the best.
Welcome, Karishma of ThePrint. We hope your media work will help clear the air and the truth should be presented because the truth is for everybody and everyone wants peace. And your contribution hopefully will dispel all kinds of false narratives that are floating around, and the truth will set all of us free.
We hope so, sir. Thank you so much.